Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. My name is Kyron Murphy. I'm working in our technical sales here at K2 in Renningen. Today, we will be discussing all things hanger bolts and solar fasteners. Just to give you a bit of an idea of the schedule for today, I will be introducing some of our products, which you can see here in the solar fastener and hanger bolts. I will then be passing over to a colleague of mine, Roman Barr. He will be discussing and showing some of the information we have online, our software K2 base, and where to find important information that we may not cover today or on other topics. We will then have a round of question and answers. So if you have any questions throughout today or on some topics that are similar, there'll be an opportunity for us to turn your microphone on, and you can ask the question to either myself or to Roman. Alternatively, if you have questions while we're talking, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. So you should have three buttons. One has chat, one has a hand signal, and one has a Q&A. Please use the Q&A function for asking your questions. That will make it much easier for us to answer, and you can get an answer direct to the question you ask and not scroll up and down through the chat to try find the answer you're looking for. So before we go any further, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Roman. Can you hear us, Roman? Would you like to introduce what you'll be doing today and maybe a bit about yourself?
Hey, Kyron. Hey, everyone. Nice to see you again. I hope you can see me right now. I'm Roman. I'm doing the online part today in the webinar about hanger bolts and solar fasteners. Kyron and I were doing webinars already before. Maybe you know us from previous webinars, maybe not. So we both work in the technical department in Renningen, and we're happy to be here with you. As Kyron mentioned before, I'm going to do the online part later on. Kyron will be showing the parts, the samples first, explain a little bit about it, and then we'll continue with me. But before we all start with this, let's do a poll first so we can have a little idea about how familiar you are with K2 already and how is your expertise already. So Kyron, do you want to add something more, or should we start with the poll?
I think we should add for the poll. Thank you very much for that little introduction. Okay,
so let's start it. We have three little questions. The first question is, are you using K2 base regularly?
And we appreciate your participation in these polls. It allows us to focus on the information we give in the webinar. So perhaps if we have a group of more novice viewers, we can focus more on the very basics. However, if everyone has already seen some of the products and knows already a bit of information, we can get into a bit more detail. So we really appreciate the participation, and it doesn't take too long.
Exactly. So thank you. Also from my side, Kyron, we have 68% which are using regularly. That's already good. Second question, have you participated in a K2 webinar before? So as you see, they're very easy questions, just yes or no. This just helps us, as Kyron mentioned before, to see do we have to go a little bit deeper into the topic or just the basics as well. So yeah, I think this one is good. Kyron, you see it?
Yeah, so we have about 40% new participants. So welcome to all of you. Hopefully we can provide as much information as you need, and we might see you again in a future one.
Okay, and then we have a multiple choice question. Which mounting system, if you're using a mounting system, do you use mostly? So you have the option of choosing not just one. You have the option to choose 2 or 3 or even all of them, or none. There's also the option to choose none. Just give them a few more seconds, Kyron. What do you think?
Yeah, 1 or 2, I think.
All righty.
I think we're good. So it's about
good.
20 to 25% across the board, I think. So a very wide range of users, and some people haven't used anything. So I think providing a bit more detail on some of the basics might be good here as well.
Very true. And also, as you see, hanger bolts and solar fasteners are only 14%. So we hope we can explain something new to you, and maybe you will realize the first project with also this kind of fasteners. All right, thanks again from my side. We'll see us later. As Karen said before, please feel free to ask any questions you have. There's the section on the bottom, the Q&A section. Just ask and I'll try to answer them, or give Karen directly a shout to answer the questions live, if that's an interesting one for everyone. All right, see you guys later and have fun with Karen.
Thank you very much, Roman. To start off, I think we should discuss our rail system. So our hanger bolts and our solar fasteners are using our SingleRail and SolidRail system. And just to give a brief introduction of them, I have a couple of samples here. And there's one main difference, and it'll be quite easy to show close up, and that is the profile. So here we have our solid rail. So this rail has what we would consider our standard channel on top, and we have some clamps for that, which I will show later, but the fixation is from underneath. So this has the advantage of it a little bit easier to extrude. The profile, when compared to here, is a little more simple. However, the assembly takes a little more time to do. So if your project is, if the cost of your project is due to or sensitive to labor costs, perhaps it might not be as suitable as the single rail, because the single rail is a little bit easier to install. So you can see here we have the same channel on top, and the fixation is from the side. So this is suitable for the solar fasteners and the hanger bolts for today, and also our many other systems we have on different sort of roofs. So our tile roofs and our seam clamp roofs, we also use these rails. Just to show you the clamps that will be used here as well. We have two styles. I have some examples here. So here we have our standard clamps. So these clamps are suitable for modules of depth 30 to 50 millimeters. So the clamps, these specific clamps are not, I should point that out, there is a different clamp for each module depth. However, you don't have to worry about this too much, because our software, which Roman will show later, pre-assigns the right clamp for the module size that you would like to use. So all you need to do is put in your module size, and the clamp will be selected for you. Installation, very simple, using our K2 slot nut, sits in the rail, and then turn 90 degrees, and it just sits in, is then tightened from above with a Allen key or a hex key. And that is the process. The other clamp we have is called our OneMid, OneEnd. Is a little bit different. Installation is done slightly differently. Push, and it sits in like that. These clamps are suitable for modules from 30 to 42 in depth. So not as large as the other clamps, the module depths are not as large. The possibility of deeper modules is not as great. However, if you're buying many clamps and you know you use different module sizes, you can just buy this one clamp and it will be suitable for, as I said, any modules between 30 and 42. So if you buy in bulk, this might be more suitable. However, the range is a little bit smaller. So that was a quick introduction of the clamping and the rails that we use. And the rails especially, it will come a little bit clearer once we talk about the solar fasteners and the hanger bolts and how the rails attach to these parts. Let's have a few little samples here, which we'll show in a bit more detail as well. So here we have a solar fastener and a hanger bolt. This is our solar fastener. and this is our hanger bolt. You see that slightly, well, one is a fair bit bigger than the other one. This is the hanger bolt, so it's a bit thicker. This comes in M10 and M12, whereas the solar fastener comes in a M8 sort of bottom half, and then the top half is M10. The solar fastener is what I'd like to talk about first, and that is because it is suitable for the trapezoidal roof. And this is also suitable for wooden and steel subconstruction. So we don't have a subconstruction here, but imagine what sits underneath this roofing. It's either steel or wood. So the hanger bolt effectively screws through the sandwich panel. So this is not necessarily needed, like you don't necessarily need a sandwich panel, but it is specially designed for sandwich panels. The reason we don't screw onto the top is that in high wind loads, this can pull off a little bit and damage the insulation. So for sandwich panels, we recommend the solar fasteners, and they effectively sit through here. No, that won't sit. So we can then, sorry, oh, I've lost a piece. Thanks, Klaus. One of the other issues with the drilling into the sandwich panel is that you damage the installation or potentially damage the barrier between the roofing and the insulation. So you want to make sure this is still waterproof, and we do that with a calotte, which sits just over the peak of the trapezoidal roofing. So here we have a blue one. However, you can get it in many different colors. You can also get it in many different shapes. So if you have the design of your roof, the data sheet for the roof, you're able to select, or if we're able to provide, is probably a better way of putting it, the calotte which is best suited for your roof. This has an EPDM strip underneath, which acts as a waterproof barrier and sits just, as I said, just on the trapezoidal peak. Here we have a bit of a side profile. And so that sits in like that. We can then attach a side plate or a fixation point where we connect the, in this case, SolidRail. So you can imagine it sits here, or in this case, sorry, it would sit like this, with the rail running the direction of the peaks running, but you're also able to put it opposite ways, or alternatively put cross bracing if for whatever reason you need that. As I said before, the fixation is from below. And this is done with a T-bolt, which sits inside the channel. And then as you tighten it, it turns. And then the T-bolt effectively gets stuck and you tighten from underneath. As I said before, this installation can be a little bit harder because once you're on the roof, you have to come in underneath, and it can be a little bit fiddly to try working from above to try come in underneath. So if we compare that to the hanger bolts, it's a very similar setup. However, it's not suitable for the exact situations. As you can see, this is a lot thicker than the solar fastener. And for this reason, it's only suitable to screw into wooden subconstruction. So as I said before, the solar fastener is suitable for steel and wood, whereas the hanger bolt, just wood. It's also not suitable for this type of roofing, the trapezoidal roofing. However, it is suitable for concrete fiber roofing. And the reason for that is the sealant that is on here. So before we had the calotte, whereas here we have what I would consider a plug, which acts, which acts as a plug, I guess, and it sits on the on the cement fiber, like the corrugated cement fiber, and stops the water coming in, as you can imagine, in a bathtub or in a sink. One important thing to note is there's a double sealant, effectively. It's a little bit hard to see here, but there's, maybe Klaus, if you could zoom in a little bit. There's two sections. So the outside and the inside. And so this acts, and it's a little bit deeper, sorry. So the inside of the rubber acts as the plug, as which I said, and the outside acts as a cap that sits over the top of the hole that has been screwed. So it's effectively double, or it's got two layers, which ensures the sealing of the hole that's in the roof. This is important because you, generally speaking, really don't want water in your roof. And so both options, either with the ceiling we have this, or the calotte ceiling, ensures that no water will get into the insulation or through the roof into the material, for example, the wooden subconstruction or the steel subconstruction as well. The hanger bolt is suitable with the SolidRail, which this fastener here is for. However, it is also suitable for the SingleRail. And I'll just show a little bit different here. So instead of using an adapter, well, it's still using an adapter plate, but however, there's a second part which allows for installation from above. So as I said before, imagine this is sitting on the roof. Remember, this doesn't work with this roofing, but just as an example, you could be sitting here on the roof, and instead of coming from underneath, I can now tighten from above, which makes installation a lot simpler, a lot easier. However, it's also just as firm. You can see here we're using the channel on the side with a climber. We also use this for cross bracing, and we use it in some of our other systems as well. Perhaps you've seen them before. But we also have an example of, not example, but an option for attaching with the T-bolt from the side. So there's two options here. And I might be able to just show the installation of this one as well. I take that back. It's a little bit too firmly screwed in. However, the T-bolt, which sits in here, in the channel, and then you tighten from the side. So you don't have to come underneath. You're still going from above, but it's just a slightly different clamping. I think that's all of the topics I had here. Roman, before I pass over to you, was there any questions that was raised, or was there anything you think I could go through in a little more detail?
Yeah, Karen, there's one general question. So when would you use the SingleRail? When would you use the SolidRail? This is maybe a good question for everyone. When would you use it? You were just explaining, okay, that's the fixation, that's the way, but how would you decide when would you use the SingleRail, for example?
Yeah, so there's a few points that you need to consider. So I said before, the solar fasteners, these are only suitable for SolidRail. So perhaps you have steel subconstruction, you might be limited to the rail that you can use. So sometimes, depending on like the options that you have with the roof that is existing, that might determine what you use. However, if you do have the option, from my side, the decision that you would the criteria you would use to make a decision would be cost of material versus cost of labor. So as I said, it was a little bit easier to install the SingleRail. So if the cost of labor is not a big part of your project, then maybe the SolidRail is, because it will take a little while longer. However, that's not part of the cost. If it's the other way around, if the cost of labor is very high, I would want my material to allow for installation to be as quick as possible. In that case, I would choose the single rail. So for me, that would be my criteria. However, perhaps you have a preference because you have single rail on stock, or you have solid rail on stock, or one's easier to supply the other. So there's a few criteria you'd want to take. However, there's no hard and fast rule about which is better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this. Another question. So, for example, you have a very long distance between the fasteners. How can you ensure that this rail will be good to go? Like the rail won't be bending, for example, and will be strong enough. Is there another option? What can we do?
Yeah, so there's two things to consider in this case. So it's the distance between the fasteners and how that affects the rail, but also the weight on the fasteners. So the first thing, the rail, as the distance between the fasteners gets longer, obviously the rail will bend more, there's more force on the rail. And because of this, we have a range of thicknesses of our single rail and solid rail. And I'll just give you a quick example here. So here we have our single rail 63. Here we have a single rail 36. So this is what I'd consider the standard version of the single rail. And this is suitable for the majority of the projects that we design. However, sometimes you do need a stronger rail or a thicker rail. And here we have a thicker version of this. So there's a little bit more material. It's a little bit stronger and it allows for larger spans. We also have this for our solid rail. However, I don't have an example here to show you, unfortunately. And so this allows for these situations where longer spans are required. In terms of the fasteners themselves, we do have an option which is not plannable in base, but it is something that we can sell. And it effectively uses two rails next to each other in this direction. So you place one, maybe let's just say one here and one here. It's a lot closer together. However, this is just for an example. And then, Klaus, can you zoom like out a little bit or up a bit? And then between this rail and this rail, we have a bridging component. And then in this bridging component that sits here, we can then attach our rails. We're also able to do that in this direction. So depending on the raft or the direction of your subconstruction. So generally speaking, it would be like this. However, both are possible. Your subconstruction would run this way. You can put them on opposite crests. And so in this case, the bridge would sit between the two solar fasteners, and then the rail, so imagine this is the bridge here, the rail runs towards me. So we can halve the loads on the solar fasteners by adding this bridging component, and then we can put a thicker rail in. So Roman, maybe you could show where that, or just show the component of the bridging on our website. I don't think you'll be able to find it on base.
I don't think it's on the website because it's a special construction, a bespoke solution that's not on the website, but good that you mention it, yeah.
Yeah, so if that situation does occur, you can send us an email and we can provide the solution and the components that you need.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Karen.
Welcome. Was there any other questions?
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any other question. Looks like everything is clear, well explained. So then I'd say we just switch to the online part. What do you think?
Okay, that sounds good. I'll hand over to you. Okay,
then. I will just start to share my screen now. Karen, you will continue answering the questions?
Yes, I will.
And thank you. All right, so back to me. Back to the online part, and I will share my screen now so we can discuss about how and where to find the information you need. So here's our website with a new face mask, that's what I like to call it. It's quite easy to find whatever information you need with the new mask, because like if you, for example, have any questions, you want to call us, there's the number right on top. There's the information email, which you can always send an email and ask questions about. Also, if you need very fast help, there's K2 Sherpa, you can chat with us. And what I also want to mention is that the K2 Docu app, which is an app for a whole documentation from the very beginning of a project until the very end. You can document all, like you can collect and gather all the documents you need for the whole project. This is right now just available for the German, Austrian, Swiss area, but it will come up for other areas too. Just wanted to mention it. Okay, so let's start. We are with the hanger bolts and solar fasteners. So I will go to the products and choose, for example, the corrugated fiber cement. We want to find a assembly instruction now and have a look into that one. So let's say we are planning with a SolidRail system. So we click on the SolidRail system here for more information. And then if you're interested, you can read the explanation how everything works, which parts you need for the SolidRail system and all that. But we will scroll down directly to the downloads and see already there's the list of what kind of downloads you can have. And we obviously click on the assembly instructions and checklist. Now, as Karen mentioned before, for each rail family, so SingleRail, SolidRail, whichever you want to use, you have different fasteners. So, and as we clicked only on the SolidRail, we have the option of the assembly for roof hooks, for example, solar fasteners, hanger bolts, seam clamps, and all that. It's all in one in here in this download section. So don't worry if you don't find it right away, but it's all written. It's actually quite clear. You have the assembly instruction, and then just search for the right one you need to know, you need to find. So today we are planning solar fastener. That's why we click on here, the English version today, and it just opens the PDF file, which you are able to download if you want to have it on your computer or on your cell phone. Depends on whatever you want to do. If you like to take it with you onto the construction site, it makes sense just to download or even print it out. So as we have the assembly instruction open now, you can take a quick look. There's the overview, the content, what's written in the assembly instruction, which parts you need to know, then what kind of tools you need, and the requirements of the roof and all that. It's very interesting. If you're working with K2 the first time, please read it all through. It keeps also, if you keep it up like this, it keeps you the warranty for all our parts. What I don't want to go too deep into this detail now, but I wanted to show you something again about the ceiling. The ceiling Karen was pointing out before and showing the round ceiling, exactly this one, not the colored. So there is also the question sometimes, how fast do I have to tighten it up? Is there a torque for it or something? And there is not, but here's easy explained how you're going to do it right. So make sure it sits tight and firm, but not too much. This will be the wrong option. If you just press it on too hard, it will bend out and it won't be sealing. So please make sure you use this one correct. Also about the pre-drilling, if you have any questions about that, there's a little table with the diameters of which size, if you're using the metric 10 or 12, whichever size you need, what's the size of the pre-drilling for example, for the substructure or also for the sheet itself. So all this kind of information you will find in the assembly instruction, and also of course how to set it up, how to build it. That just as an information for you. What else is important? If you want to find out what kind of cullet you want to use, if you have, for example, a trapezoidal sheet, then you have the checklists from K2. You can also download, and therefore you have the checklist for just your project. You type it in, have for example, all the information about the building and the location, and then about the roof and the sheet. And that's what I want to point out is right here. You see which measurement you have to type in, and therefore we can decide which color is the best for you and the best option. Okay, I think that's all self-explaining pretty much. So you have all the documents here, information about the system, product data sheets, and all that is just all in this download section. I think that was our the part with our website. Are there any questions about the website, Karen, right now?
No, that was all very clear and concise. Thank you.
Okay. So then we will switch to K2 Base, which is our planning tool, the planning software. I'll just change to English. And continue then. So I did a pre-planning a little bit, so we continue a bit faster. As some of you haven't, I think, how many % were which haven't used K2 Base? I think like 20 or 30, just right?
Yeah, not regularly. I think
not
it was
regularly.
Over about, I think it was about 40% not regular users.
So I did plan a roof up front to continue here a bit faster, but for you who are not really familiar with K2 Base or don't use it very often, there are a lot of videos, little tutorials, which you find in here. You get a direct link to YouTube, and they're just videos of 2 or 3 minutes, and they will help you how to plan your roof. Very easy, very, very well explained, and they won't take too much time to just watch them, little clips, and they will help you a lot. But for today, I did sign in already what we needed to know, just the address and everything. And I did already the planning for the roof. We just assumed this one would be a corrugated sheet now, this roof, which isn't in this Google Maps view. But anyways, that doesn't really matter because you can just draw your roof wherever you want it. In case, I just mentioned this right now, in case you have a project for a roof which doesn't exist yet. So you can just draw the roof in a green part or in the field or even on a railway, wherever you want it. This is just as a little reference how large your roof is. So here I did type in already all the measurements and all the information we need about the roof. Please also make sure if you do the planning, make sure to type all the necessary parts in, because then you get the right calculation and also you get the warranty right. Cool, then we jump to the design section. First, we should have chosen a module. I did choose a Trina here, which is a recent module we're using quite often. But there's a big database where you can choose from any kind of manufacturer, and every module they have in here. So then this is actually what we want to go for. We want to plan. I just switched to the 2D view. It's easier to see. We want to plan our own module array. So here we start with choosing either the SingleRail or the SolidRail. We also have optional the insertion system, but today we want to keep it the Solid and SingleRail because we have the hanger bolt and solar fastener as a topic. And as we just had in the assembly instruction, we had a look into the SolidRail. So now we start planning with the SolidRail. We draw a module array. We have the option to do the complete roof, but it's always better to have the module array there. We can change the size of the module array. And as we have purlins right here going horizontal, we want to have it, we want to draw it now with one layer, so then we go with the landscape orientation. So now it's loading first, and I start with one click and a second click to draw up our module array. This is the module field now, 3 by 4, or if you want to have it a bit larger, we extend it by pulling and putting the mouse left or right. You can make it a bit bigger or smaller. On the left-hand side, we have still all the information written, which we were choosing before. So we were going with the SolidRail system, landscape orientation, edge distance we can put in if we want to. And then it's a one layer system. We can change it to two, but that doesn't make sense right now. And Karen was explaining about our different clamps, the module clamps. So we have the option about between the OneMid, OneEnd clamp and also the extra small, the standard clamp. There you can just choose which one you want. And then you have also the option between the silver and the black clamp. So here we see directly we have the purlins in gray, the roof in red, and then in purple, bluish colored modules. This is what it would look like with this calculation now. We continue with the loads. And here, as I was planning in Germany right now, the K2 base, the K2 base can already calculate with all the loads from this area, but this changes from each country. So for example, if you plan something in Sweden, you have to type in the whole wind load zone, for example. In Switzerland, you have to type in what's actually the velocity pressure, for example, or the snow load. So that's up to each country. It's always different, but please make sure once you type in the address right, there's a lot of information about already implemented in K2 base about your location, and therefore sometimes you don't have to type something in here, or at least not much. So all what we had to do now is to choose the terrain category. That's what we always have to do, because base doesn't know if you're on the coast, if you're in an industrial area, or just on open fields. And if you don't know which terrain category you're in, you have a little help by clicking on this question mark, and you can see, okay, we are now, for example, in the category 3. We are in the surrounding suburbs and industrial area. So that's why I chose category 3 here. So you see, we had 4 steps until now, and we are already on the result. It's very simple. That's the planning. It looks a bit weird now because I did some changes before, but now this is what it looks like. We have the roof. You see the purlins in gray. You see the modules and also the rails running from north to south in this here. And if we want to make it a bit more clear, we can, on the buttons on the left-hand side, we can just hide, for example, the purlins or the modules, just to make it a bit more clear. If you have bigger roofs, it just sometimes makes more sense. That's why we have the option here to just show or unshow the parts, the actual parts. There's another feature. If you want to have, here we were choosing with the ultralight 32, and you have the option to choose different rails and also different rail lengths. So now you want to choose obviously the best possible rail length for this project. And therefore you can click on one of the rails and it will show you the size, the length actually of the rail by opening a new field over here, the results, and you see the rail length of 5 meters right now. Also, if you click, which is opening right in here as well, the pressure and like the loads on the module, if you just click on the module, it will also show you some information about that. So this is pretty much the calculation we have done. To get the report, the technical report, we are clicking on the summary, and it will show you the different roofs. If you have more than one, the system you were using, and also the module name. Then the parts you need, just in general, the whole bill of materials. But then if you have more than one roof, you can choose even between 2 roofs. So you see, for this roof, I need this material. For the other one, I need that. Then it's also well explained in the report. If you download the report, you have the option to tick or untick the boxes here. If you want to have the structural analysis in, you want to have the bill of materials in or not. Depends on what kind of information you want to give to the customer. If you just want to have everything inside, tick all the boxes and then just generate the report. That's what I just did now. it will download it directly. And once we open the report, you can see everything is listed. Very well explained again here, what kind of project it is, who was the author, who was planning the project, when was the planning date, and then information, all the information about the roof, about the calculation, about the rail length and the combination of two rails, for example. Where do you need to put the rail connector? Where do you need to put the fastener? The size of the roof. All the information are gathered here in this report. And yeah, this is also pretty much your static report. So as I mentioned before, please make sure to type all the information you have about the roof, type them in right, as the roof height and the roof pitch, for example. Very important information, because if you change this one up, sometimes you won't get the verification for the whole system, which is showing right here. Status, we got a green tick and everything is in order. That means it's all well planned and we get the static report. Another thing I want to, or before I continue, are there any questions, Karen?
Yeah, thanks, Roman. We had questions regarding the information that you need to go in and out of base, and perhaps it's a good time to discuss there. So there was one about information that we can export, and are we ever looking to export an AutoCAD file rather than just a report? Mm-hmm. And on this topic, yeah, I'd just like to add that we're always looking to ways for improve and what we can deliver. At the moment, we haven't had too much requests for this, I believe, and it's something that we may consider in the future. However, it's not on the sort of foreseeable future.
It's I have to add something to this. It's already possible, as I know, for flat roof systems.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I remember. We are planning on doing it, or we have already uploaded in the flat roof section, because this is where we had some requests already, but there will something coming up if it's not already online.
Okay, and where would the best place to find this information be? Because obviously you have an updated version from me.
It's right here. If you did your planning and then you are on the summary page, it's right here. You have the export for Excel, so you have different options here, and then also you have the export for the AutoCAD.
Oh, okay. Now I should sign up for our newsletter, because this is where all this information comes.
That's true. Everyone has to sign up if you need the information. But okay, is there any other question?
No.
No? Okay. Then I will continue with, that was just the basics from K2 Base. And as I mentioned before, please, if those 5 steps to get to the summary, if that's a bit complicated, just double check with the tutorials, 2 or 3 minutes, the videos, it's very helpful. But now I want to go a little bit deeper into detail, because we also have some already specialists here which have worked with K2 Base before. For example, we want to have a 2-layer system now. We would change the portrait to go a bit deeper. We have 1 layer, 2 layer. 1 layer means, as we just had now with the result, you see just 1 rail going perpendicular to the purlins, running from north to south here. 2-layer system means, that's what I'm going to show. If you have portrait, for example here, portrait orientated modules, and you still want to clamp them on the long side, which you have to, that's when you see we have 1 rail running down from north to south, and the other one horizontal, the way the purlin's running, to clamp on the long side of the modules. This is one information I had in previous webinars. That's why I wanted to show you directly in K2 Base how this works. So if you, obviously it's a bit more material and therefore it's a bit more expensive. So if you want to save money and time, start planning, if you know you have Perlin, start planning with landscape oriented modules already. Another thing, if you're planning yourself in K2 base, the question about the thermal gap. So here we have a thermal gap. If that's coming up automatically, that was another question, as I remember. And here we don't have a thermal gap at all, as we see right now. But if I just change it, no, I don't even have to change it. But now we have 9 modules in a row. If I just extend this to go a bit longer, maybe I can go long enough to show you that K2 base is smart enough to put a thermal gap automatically in. So here we go. We have now 17 modules on the whole roof. After 16 modules, we need to have a thermal gap, which is right here, right now. And for those of you who are planning with K2 base regularly, they know already. For the other ones, I'm going to show how to change this thermal gap from this position to another position, because this doesn't really look nice, and we want to have it nice and pretty much symmetric on the roof. So then we have the option to click on this button, and there we have the horizontal and vertical one. Change it to a red line, as you see here. The one with the thermal gap is white and a bit thicker, but we can just swap it from either clicking on one of the red lines and ticking this box, or we choose here the thermal gap after. For example, here we have 16 modules. I just choose 9 now, and it changes directly to after 9 modules. Also, K2 base is smart enough to know if we want to have it after 17 or 18 modules, for example, it's just not possible. I type in 18, but it will change back to 16 because this is just the maximum. So you won't even be able to make a mistake in case you're planning to make a mistake. Okay, I think that was from my side. Kyron, are there any more questions about K2 base?
There are. Maybe we can just discuss them. When you download this K2 base file,
yes.
What can you do with this file?
What can I do with this file?
Yeah, so I think someone has probably has downloaded it, and then they open it, and it just is a bunch of text, and it's a bit confusing. So
I don't exactly get the question. So this is pretty much your static report. First of all, you need this as a static report.
But yeah, so the .k2o file.
Oh, the K2O file. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So if you have questions and you don't know how to complete, for example, the project you started planning, then you are always able to send it to either us, K2 directly, if you're a direct customer, or to one of our partners. So they are all, they do regular trainings with us. They are always on the newest state with K2 base. So if you don't know how to go any further, you're always able to download the K2 file, the base file, and send it to, as I said, our partners or us, and we can help you out.
Yeah, so it's a sharing function is effectively a good way of looking at it.
Exactly. So, is there any more questions about K2 base or the website or anything else I can help out? If not, I would say we would start with the raising hands part. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. So as I said before, we have a question and answer round. So if you have a question that you would like to ask verbally to either myself or Roman, you're able to put your hand up, and there's a little icon down the bottom of your screen. We will be able to turn your microphone on, and you can ask either Roman or myself directly. We will hang around for a little while, allow some maybe people to form some questions or just listen to me to talk, because I can wrap up a little bit as well, or begin to wrap up. While we wait, I would just like to make a comment on some of the situation we have at the moment with delivery. So if some of you some of our existing customers have placed orders and have been affected by either a change in your order quantity or a delay in delivery, we apologize for this. There's a combination of an increase or a massive influx of orders that have come through. You may notice this yourself with other parts of the industry. So modules themselves are becoming a little hard to get a hand on, but also in the wider construction industry, this is a bit of an issue at the moment. On the other side, production with the aluminium is becoming a little more difficult here in Germany, where the majority of aluminium is used for the automotive industry. They've just picked up after Corona. So at the moment, we're in a bit of a pickle where we have lots of stuff coming in from one end and a bit of a struggle to try support that from the other end. We are working extremely hard with this, and now you may have seen some information about our DevOps team or our special ops team. And I believe in the next couple of days, we will have finished all our backlog orders, and we will be able to run a bit more smoothly than before. So we apologize if you've been affected by this, and we will hopefully have things running a bit more smoother in the coming time. But we appreciate your patience as well. So I just like to say that before we get to the questions. Roman, was there any hands that have been raised, or?
It doesn't look like anyone wants to talk to us, but that means we were good explaining about everything. I don't think any questions are open. Yeah, you were just mentioning about the delivery times as well. Can you tell us something about that? What are the times right now we have to plan with the estimated time?
Yeah, so at the moment, any orders from today for tomorrow, I guess tomorrow's for next month, could be up to 10 to 14 weeks delayed. So it's not saying it will be, however, there is a possibility depending on the product that you're looking for. So apologies, we cannot provide an exact information on this. It's short, this is affected, this isn't affected, but at the moment we would just like to have a blanket comment that orders could be, or deliveries could be delayed up to 10 to 14 weeks.
Yeah, this also depends on the sizes of the project you're ordering, the parts you have in the project, and if we can change them up to other parts. So there are many factors which are running in there. So we have to check once the orders are coming in. That's from my side. Okay, yeah. Karen, you want to stick around a bit longer, or what's your plan? Because I think I'm done with my part.
Yeah, there was 2 questions about flat roofs, but I can quickly discuss that. So Roman, I will leave you to your afternoon. I know you have lots to catch up on. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you did learn something about our systems and have fun planning with K2 Base, and hopefully see you next time with the next webinars again. Next one will be next week. And yeah, until then, have a good one. Karen, have fun. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you. So yeah, we had 3 more questions, and I was typing one, but it was probably just easier to answer live. We had a question about use of triangles on the SolidRail. So most of our systems are intercompatible, however, not necessarily in base. So if you have a system where you might hey, I want a bit more inclination on my roof, you can send us the information by email, and we can put together a parts list and some statistical verification on how the system works. Many of these aren't in base, however, so things like triangles, ground-mounted systems, triangles at certain different inclinations is sort of a bit more of a bespoke solution. So we are able to plan this, it's just not within the software. There's a couple of questions on flat roofs, not really about today, but pretty quick to answer. So we have we've done some tests on the installation speed between our Dome 6, which is our latest product on the flat roofs, and some of our older systems. And installation time can be cut by 20 to 30% with the pre-assembled option. If you're interested in more information about the Dome 6 or our flat roofs, we have webinars pre-recorded that you can find on YouTube. We will also be doing a flat roof webinar in probably about a month and a bit. So today is one of a series of 5. Each week we do a new topic. Flat roofs was, I think, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And so when we start the next one, flat roofs will be there and we can discuss a bit more information or hopefully all information on flat roofs. And that would be the best place to see that. You can sign up for the webinars and find out information on the webinars, probably through our newsletter is the easiest way to do so. I mentioned that before. You can get information on also our new products and any developments in either base or products that we have, or maybe even the delivery times that I mentioned. This will come out through the newsletters. Did we have any other email questions at the moment? I don't think so. And we have nobody with their hand up. So I will wrap up right now. Thanks again to Klaus. Klaus is in the background. He makes this all possible. Thank you to you, the viewers. We appreciate your attendance, and hopefully you've learnt something. But if you have any more questions, yeah, please feel free to contact us. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you at another webinar. We'll be doing, I don't know what we'll be doing next week. Yeah, fold seam metal roofs next week. So that will also use our SolidRail and our SingleRail system, which we introduced today. But how do we attach these to folding seam metals? So a bit of an interesting topic because there's quite a range of seam types. So how we get the clamps and the rails onto the seam roofs is a bit of a science about it. And we'll go into a bit more information next week. So once again, thank you. Hopefully you'll have a lovely week and we look forward to seeing you again. If not, happy planning with your solar, and until then, thank you. Bye.